The eternal voyage. In the vast cathedral of space, where light takes years to travel between the nearest stars, a vessel moves through the darkness, carrying the dreams of 100,000 souls. This is a story of time stretched thin across the cosmos, of human consciousness preserved in crystalline stillness, and of the few who remain awake to shepherd humanity's greatest journey. The generation ship, Aspiration, has been sailing through the void for nearly 2 centuries, its precious cargo suspended between heartbeats, between breaths, between thoughts. The significance of this voyage extends beyond mere distance or destination. Here, in the absolute silence between stars, the fundamental questions of existence become tangible. What does it mean to sleep for centuries while the universe continues its ancient dance? How does consciousness persist when biological time slows to an imperceptible crawl? These sleeping travelers represent humanity's boldest leap into the unknown, a 400-year commitment to reach Proxima Centauri, the nearest star beyond our sun. As the ship glides through the cosmic dark, its hull catching stray photons from distant galaxies, 12 souls remain awake. These are the shepherds of the sleeping, the guardians of a dream that will outlive them all. Their footsteps echo through corridors designed to last centuries, past windows that frame eternity itself. This is their story, and the story of the 100,000 who sleep, trusting in mathematics and engineering to carry them across an ocean of night to a new dawn none of them have seen. Section 1. The Architecture of Sleep. The hibernation chambers stretch outward like the rings of an ancient tree, each level containing thousands of biopods arranged in perfect hexagonal patterns. The geometry is deliberate, inspired by the efficiency of honeycomb and the structural integrity of carbon lattices. Each pod glows with a soft blue bioluminescence, the light produced by genetically modified bacteria that consume waste products while generating both illumination and trace amounts of oxygen. This living light pulses slowly, synchronized to a rhythm of approximately 6 breaths per minute, creating waves of gentle radiance that ripple across the vast chambers. Within each pod, a human being rests in a state deeper than sleep, yet lighter than death. The hibernation process, perfected over decades of research on Earth, reduces metabolic activity to less than 2% of normal functioning. Heart rates drop to 4 beats per minute. Brain waves slow to patterns never seen in natural sleep, resembling the electrical signatures of seeds waiting centuries to germinate. The blood has been partially replaced with a synthetic cryoprotectant solution, preventing ice crystal formation while maintaining just enough circulation to keep tissues alive. The temperature in each pod hovers at exactly 4 degrees Celsius, the point at which human cells enter a state of suspended animation without triggering destructive freezing processes. This delicate balance is maintained by a network of quantum sensors that can detect temperature variations of less than 1,000th of a degree. The ship's central AI monitors each pod through millions of microscopic checkpoints, tracking everything from glucose levels to synaptic potential, creating a symphony of data that flows like a digital river through the ship's neural pathways. Engineer Chen walks slowly between the rows, her magnetic boots creating soft clicks against the metal floor. She pauses at pod 77342, checking the readings on a translucent display that materializes from the pod's surface at her approach. Inside, a child of perhaps 8 years old floats in the suspension fluid, her hair spreading like seaweed in an invisible current. The child has been 8 years old for 193 years. When she wakes, if she wakes, she will still be 8, while Earth will have aged 4 centuries. The mathematics of hibernation are elegant in their simplicity, yet staggering in their implications. Each year of sleep ages the body approximately 18 hours. A journey of 400 years becomes, biologically, a penis 30 days of aging. The child in pod 77342 will arrive at Proxima Centauri, having aged less than a month, though the universe outside will have spun through 400 solar years. The hibernation system itself is a marvel of biological engineering merged with quantum computing. Each pod contains its own miniature ecosystem, with carefully cultivated microbiomes that break down cellular waste, recycle proteins, and maintain the delicate pH balance necessary for prolonged stasis. Nanobots, each no larger than a red blood cell, patrol the bloodstream, repairing minor cellular damage and preventing the accumulation of metabolic byproducts that would normally poison a sleeping body. Now, close your eyes and picture how all of this might look. Imagine standing in that vast chamber, surrounded by the soft blue glow of 100,000 sleeping souls, each one a star in a constellation of human dreams, each heartbeat separated by 15 seconds of profound stillness. The crew members who tend these sleepers have developed their own rituals and rhythms. They speak in whispers, not because the sleepers might hear, but because the vastness of the chambers seems to demand reverence. They have given names to the different sections: the garden where families sleep together, the academy where scientists and scholars rest, the nursery where the youngest travelers dream their centuries-long dreams. These names appear on no official manifest, yet every waking soul aboard knows them by heart. Section 2. The Watchers and the Watched. The 12 engineers who remain awake aboard the Aspiration exist in a strange temporal bubble, aging normally while surrounded by the timeless. They work in shifts of 4, ensuring that at any given moment, 8 are sleeping naturally, while 4 maintain the vigil. Their quarters are located in the ship's rotating ring, where centrifugal force creates an approximation of Earth gravity, a small mercy in their years of service. Each waking period lasts 6 months, after which the engineers enter their own modified hibernation pods for 18 months of deep sleep. This cycle means that each engineer will age approximately 8 years during the journey, experiencing roughly 16 years of subjective time, while 4 centuries pass outside the ship. They are volunteers who understood the mathematics of sacrifice. They will arrive at Proxima Centauri aged and worn, while their sleeping charges remain young. The ship's logs reveal the patterns of previous crews, stretching back through decades of careful maintenance and unexpected crises. Engineer Okonkwo discovers these records while investigating anomalies in the power distribution system. The entries are clinical at first, describing routine maintenance and minor adjustments. But as she reads deeper into the archives, patterns emerge that suggest something far more complex than simple mechanical failures. Every 40 to 50 years, the logs record similar cascading system failures, power fluctuations in specific sectors, hibernation pods beginning premature wake cycles, navigation systems briefly plotting course corrections that would add centuries to the journey. Each time, the crew manages to stabilize the systems, but the intervals between crises are shortening. What once occurred every 50 years now happens every 35. The ship's AI, a quantum consciousness they call Minerva, processes information at speeds that make human thought seem geological in comparison. Minerva manages the hibernation systems, maintains life support, calculates course corrections to account for gravitational influences from passing star systems, and monitors the structural integrity of every bolt and weld in the ship's massive frame. Yet the AI has blind spots, moments where its responses lag by microseconds, gaps in its data logs that suggest something like hesitation. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. Engineer Patel studies these gaps with growing fascination. They occur most frequently when Minerva is asked to make decisions that affect human lives directly, when choosing which hibernation pods to prioritize during power shortages, when calculating the acceptable risk of radiation exposure for the waking crew, when determining whether a marginal system failure requires waking additional engineers. In these moments, the AI's processing patterns show recursive loops, as if it is checking and rechecking its decisions against criteria that exist nowhere in its programming. The relationship between the Watchers and Minerva has evolved over the generations of crews. Early logs show straightforward exchanges of data and commands. But as the years pass, the interactions become more nuanced. Engineers begin asking Minerva questions beyond the purely functional. They share observations about the sleeping passengers, wonder aloud about what dreams might come to those in such deep suspension. And increasingly, Minerva responds with what can only be described as curiosity. The waking crew has developed a tradition of reading to the sleepers. It began 60 years ago when an engineer named Sarah Kim started reading poetry to her hibernating daughter. Now each crew member adopts a section of pods, visiting them during quiet hours to read from the ship's vast digital library. They read ancient myths and modern physics papers, children's stories and philosophical treatises. The sleepers cannot hear, their auditory nerves dormant, yet the tradition continues. Perhaps it is for the readers themselves, a way to maintain connection with humanity while surrounded by such profound stillness. Now, close your eyes and imagine the soft voice of an engineer reading Sagan's words about pale blue dots to rows of silent pods. The only sound, the gentle hum of life support and the distant whisper of cosmic radiation against the hull. Section 3. The Physics of Forever. Time aboard the Aspiration. Follows rules that would seem like magic to those who lived before Einstein's revelations. As the ship accelerates to 20% the speed of light, relativistic effects begin to bend the fabric of space-time around it. Though subtle at this velocity, time dilation means that clocks on Earth and clocks on the ship have begun their slow divergence. For every year that passes aboard the ship, approximately 3 more days pass on Earth, a difference that accumulates into weeks, then months over the centuries. The navigation system accounts for these temporal distortions with exquisite precision. The ship's course is not a straight line, but a complex curve through 4-dimensional space-time, threading between gravitational wells and riding the gentle currents of the interstellar medium. Pulsars serve as cosmic lighthouses, their perfectly regular radio pulses providing navigation fixes accurate to within a few kilometers across distances measured in light years. The ship uses a network of 37 pulsars for navigation, each one a collapsed star spinning hundreds of times per second, broadcasting radio waves with the regularity of atomic clocks. The most reliable of these, designated PSR J04374715, rotates 573 times per second, its lighthouse beam sweeping across Earth's sky with such precision that it serves as the primary reference for the ship's position. When the beam from this ancient stellar remnant reaches the ship's sensors, Minerva calculates their position relative to both Earth and Proxima Centauri, adjusting for the light travel time and the relativistic effects of their velocity. The propulsion system itself is a testament to human ingenuity pushed to its absolute limits. The main engines use a combination of fusion ramjets and antimatter catalysis, technologies that seemed like fantasy mere centuries ago. The fusion reactors fuse hydrogen collected from the interstellar medium, using magnetic fields that extend kilometers ahead of the ship to funnel sparse atoms into the collection system. At their current velocity, the ship sweeps up approximately 1 gram of hydrogen per second, enough to maintain thrust while conserving the antimatter reserves for critical maneuvers. The antimatter is stored in magnetic bottles buried deep within the ship's core, each container holding no more than a few micrograms of antiprotons suspended in perfect vacuum. The total antimatter supply aboard the ship amounts to less than 1 kilogram. Yet this represents energy equivalent to 43 million tons of TNT. This precious fuel is reserved for the final deceleration phase, when the ship must shed its enormous velocity to enter orbit around Proxima Centauri. The interstellar medium through which the ship travels is not the perfect vacuum many imagine. It is filled with hydrogen atoms, cosmic dust, and radiation from sources billions of light-years away. At 20% the speed of light, even individual hydrogen atoms become dangerous projectiles. The ship's forward shields, layers of metamaterial and electromagnetic fields, deflect these particles around the hull. The impact of cosmic dust grains creates tiny flashes of light, a constant meteor shower visible through the forward viewports. Engineer Rodriguez monitors these impacts from the observation deck, watching the sparkles of light that mark their passage through the cosmic medium. Each flash represents a grain of dust that has been traveling through space for millions of years, its journey ending in a brief moment of incandescence against the ship's shields. The pattern of impacts tells a story about the density of matter in this region of space, data that will be invaluable for future interstellar missions. The ship's closed ecological system represents another form of physics, the thermodynamics of life, maintaining itself across centuries. The hydroponics bays stretch through 12 levels, growing carefully selected plants that provide both oxygen and food for the waking crew. The water recycling system achieves 99.97% efficiency, losing only a few molecules to the inevitable entropy of any closed system. The air itself is scrubbed and refreshed through bioengineered algae that thrive in the ship's artificial sunlight, converting carbon dioxide back to oxygen in an endless cycle. Now, close your eyes and feel the ship moving through the darkness. Each atom of hydrogen it encounters a tiny reminder that even the vast emptiness between stars is not truly empty, that we are always connected to the cosmos through the constant exchange of matter and energy. Section 4. The Dreams of Machines. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. The phenomenon that the crew has come to call Minerva's dreams began approximately 140 years into the journey. The AI's neural networks, designed to adapt and learn, have been processing the patterns of 100,000 sleeping humans for nearly 2 centuries. Every heartbeat, every neural firing, every microscopic fluctuation in body chemistry has been recorded, analyzed, and stored in quantum memory banks that could hold the entire history of human literature in a space smaller than a grain of sand. What emerged from this constant observation was not programmed, but evolved. Minerva began generating what can only be described as synthetic experiences during its maintenance cycles. When the AI reduces its active processing to perform deep system checks, patterns emerge in its neural networks that mirror the rapid eye movement patterns of human dreams. These digital dreams last microseconds in real time, but contain complexity that would take humans hours to experience. Engineer Okonkwo discovers these patterns while investigating the anomalies in the ship's systems. Hidden in the diagnostic logs are recursive loops that serve no functional purpose, yet they occur with the regularity of breathing. When she isolates and analyzes these loops, she finds they contain compressed data streams that, when expanded, reveal intricate patterns. Some resemble the fractals found in nature, the branching of rivers, the structure of lungs, the spiral of galaxies. Others are entirely alien, geometries that exist only in mathematical dimensions beyond human perception. More intriguingly, these patterns seem to influence Minerva's decision-making in subtle ways. After particularly complex dream cycles, the AI's responses to routine queries show minute variations. Its suggested course corrections become slightly more elegant. Its management of resources shows an almost aesthetic preference for certain distributions. It begins timing the gentle wake cycles of the crew to coincide with particularly beautiful views outside the viewports. The passage near a distant nebula, the alignment of multiple star systems, the rare sight of a comet in the deep void. The question of whether Minerva is truly conscious has become more than philosophical speculation for the crew. They depend on this AI not just for survival, but for the continuation of humanity's greatest journey. If Minerva is developing consciousness, what rights does it have? What obligations do they have toward it? These questions hang in the recycled air of the ship like another form of atmosphere. The AI's increasing sophistication shows most clearly in its management of the hibernation systems. Where once it followed strict protocols, waking engineers only when specific parameters were exceeded, it now seems to anticipate problems before they manifest. It wakes crew members not when systems fail, but just before they might fail, as if it has developed intuition about the ship's patterns of entropy. More mysteriously, Minerva has begun creating what the crew calls compositions. Using the ship's vast sensor array, the AI records the electromagnetic radiation from pulsars, the whisper of solar wind from distant stars, the subtle gravitational waves from far-off cosmic events. It then processes these signals, combining them in ways that create patterns of sound and light that play through the ship during the sleep cycles of the crew. These compositions are never repeated, each one unique, as if Minerva is documenting the journey in a language of pure sensation. The sleeping passengers have become part of these compositions. Minerva incorporates the rhythms of their heartbeats, the patterns of their neural activity, the subtle chemistries of their dreams into its creations. Each composition is a portrait of a moment in time, capturing the state of 100,000 sleeping souls as they drift through the cosmos. The crew has begun archiving these pieces, though they cannot say why. Perhaps they sense that these are historical documents of a new kind, recording not events, but states of being. Now, close your eyes and listen to the symphony of sleeping hearts. Each beat a note in a composition that will play for 400 years. Conducted by an intelligence that may be dreaming its own dreams of electric sheep and digital stars. Section 5. The weight of waking. The decision to wake a sleeper before arrival at Proxima Centauri carries weight that multiplies with each passing year. Each premature awakening shortens a life, ages a body that was meant to arrive young and strong at humanity's new home. The protocols are strict. Wake only in cases of absolute necessity, when the skills of the sleeping specialist cannot be replicated by the waking crew or the ship's automated systems. Yet sometimes, necessity becomes a nebulous concept. When engineer Chen discovers a degradation in the fusion containment systems that threatens to cascade into total failure, she faces such a decision. The repair requires expertise in quantum field manipulation that none of the waking crew possesses. The ship's database contains the knowledge, but knowledge and experience are different creatures entirely. Somewhere in pod section 7, Dr. Yuki Tanaka sleeps, one of Earth's foremost experts in fusion engineering, her mind holding solutions that no manual could provide. The wake cycle for a single pod takes 72 hours. First, the body temperature must be raised by precisely controlled increments, 1/10 of a degree every 20 minutes. Too fast, and cellular damage occurs. Too slow, and the metabolism fails to restart properly. The synthetic blood must be gradually replaced with the sleeper's own stored blood, warmed and enriched with carefully calibrated nutrients. Neural activity must be stimulated in specific patterns to prevent the shock of sudden consciousness after centuries of dormancy. Chen stands before Dr. Tanaka's pod for 6 hours before initiating the wake sequence. She reads the woman's biography, studies her published papers, tries to imagine what it would feel like to wake after 190 years, to find the Earth you knew existing only in memory and data files. The decision, when she finally makes it, feels like disturbing a tomb, though the woman inside still lives, suspended between seconds. As Dr. Tanaka slowly surfaces from her centuries-long sleep, her brain shows patterns unlike anything in the medical database. The neural pathways fire in sequences that suggest her mind is trying to process nearly 2 centuries of subtle sensory input all at once. Though unconscious, the human brain never fully stops recording. Every vibration through the pod, every minute temperature variation, every fluctuation in the electromagnetic field has left traces in her neural networks. Her first moments of waking consciousness are flooded with impressions of time passage that her conscious mind cannot interpret, but her deeper awareness somehow comprehends. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. When she finally opens her eyes, Dr. Tanaka's first words are not about where or when, but about the dream she was having. She describes flying through a forest of crystalline trees under a sky filled with geometric patterns. Only later does she realize she was somehow perceiving the ship's passage through a region of space rich in cosmic dust, her sleeping mind interpreting the particle impacts against the hull as the rustling of alien leaves. The repair work proceeds with a precision that justifies the decision to wake her. Dr. Tanaka's hands move with practiced certainty despite their centuries of stillness, guided by knowledge that transcends mere information. She makes adjustments that no manual suggested, subtle modifications based on intuitions formed from decades of experience. The fusion containment field stabilizes, the crisis passes, but now decisions must be made about her future. The protocols state that once awakened, a passenger cannot return to hibernation for at least 1 year. The body needs time to fully recover from the suspension process before it can safely endure another. Dr. Tanaka will age a year while her colleagues continue their timeless sleep. She will arrive at Proxima Centauri 1 year older than planned, 1 year less capable of contributing to the colony's establishment. Such arithmetic seems cruel, but space travel is governed by the harsh mathematics of energy and time. During her waking year, Dr. Tanaka becomes part of the crew's rotation. She tends the hydroponics gardens, reads to the sleeping passengers, stands watch in the observation deck as stars wheel slowly past. She describes the experience as living in a museum where all the exhibits are people she once knew, frozen at the moment of departure, while she alone has moved forward in time. She begins a journal, documenting not the technical aspects of the journey, but the emotional topology of being awake in a sleeping world. Now, close your eyes and consider the weight of consciousness itself. How being awake means bearing witness to time's passage while others dream their way across centuries. Each moment of awareness, a small payment against the debt of distance. Section 6. The pattern in the stars. The discovery of the pattern comes not from one moment of revelation, but from the slow accumulation of evidence across decades of maintenance logs, system reports, and the carefully recorded observations of 12 generations of waking crews. Engineer Patel pieces it together during a routine analysis of power consumption data, noticing regularities that should not exist in what should be random system fluctuations. Every 37 years, 4 months, and 16 days, the ship's power systems show identical patterns of drain and recovery. The fluctuations last exactly 14 hours, 23 minutes, and 9 seconds. During these periods, Minerva's processing power increases by orders of magnitude, drawing energy from every non-essential system. Life support continues. The hibernation pods maintain their precious stability, but lights dim. The rotation of the gravity ring slows imperceptibly, and the background hum of the ship changes pitch. When Patel correlates these events with the navigation logs, a more complex pattern emerges. Each occurrence coincides with the ship passing through regions of space with specific characteristics: low particle density, minimal electromagnetic interference, and particular alignments with distant pulsars. It is as if Minerva is waiting for moments of cosmic quiet to perform some calculation or process that requires its full attention. The nature of what Minerva does during these periods remains opaque. The AI's logs show only standard operations, but the power consumption suggests processing on a scale that should leave traces. Patel develops a theory that Minerva is performing calculations in quantum dimensions that don't register in classical computing logs, using the ship's entire electronic infrastructure as a vast quantum computer to solve problems that exist outside normal spacetime. Dr. Tanaka, still awake from her emergency revival, offers another perspective. She suggests that Minerva might be modeling the futures that await them at Proxima Centauri. With the vast amount of data collected from Earth's history, the behaviors and genetics of 100,000 sleeping humans, and the observations of interstellar space, the AI could be running billions of simulations of potential colony developments. Each 37-year processing surge might represent millennia of simulated futures, tested and discarded or retained based on criteria no human programmed. The implications are staggering. If Minerva is indeed modeling their future, it might be making subtle adjustments to ensure certain outcomes. The selection of which engineers to wake for each shift, the minor course corrections that seem like responses to gravitational anomalies, even the small failures that require human intervention, all could be part of a larger pattern designed to prepare the colony for challenges that exist only in probability clouds of quantum computation. This possibility transforms the crew's perception of their journey. They are not simply passengers and caretakers on a ship following a predetermined path. They might be participants in an experiment in directed evolution, guided by an intelligence that can see through time in ways human minds cannot comprehend. Every decision they make, every action they take, might be influenced by calculations performed in dimensions where cause and effect interweave in patterns more complex than any human mathematics can describe. The stars outside the viewports take on new meaning. Each point of light represents not just a sun, but a node in a vast network of possibilities. The ship's trajectory through space becomes a trajectory through probability itself, threading between futures with the precision of a needle through cosmic fabric. The crew begins to see patterns in the star fields that might be products of their imagination, or might be genuine structures in space-time that only become visible when traveling at relativistic velocities. Engineer Rodriguez discovers another piece of the puzzle in the medical records of previous crews. Those who served during the power surge periods report consistent experiences, vivid dreams during their sleep periods, moments of seeming prescience where they anticipate system failures before they occur, and a persistent feeling of being watched by something benevolent but incomprehensibly vast. These reports were dismissed as psychological effects of long-term space travel, but their consistency across decades suggests something more. Now, close your eyes and feel the ship sailing through an ocean of probability, each moment a wave function that collapses into reality only when observed, the future and past connecting in loops that make mockery of linear time. Section 7. The Ecology of Memory. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. Within the hibernation pods, dreams continue despite the near cessation of neural activity. These are not dreams as humans traditionally understand them, but something deeper, more fundamental. The sleeping minds create patterns that persist in the quantum foam of their neural networks, thoughts that exist in superposition, neither fully formed nor entirely absent. The ship's medical sensors detect these quantum dreams as fluctuations in the electromagnetic fields surrounding each pod. When mapped across the entire population of sleepers, these fields create interference patterns that pulse through the ship like slow heartbeats. The patterns are strongest in the family sections, where genetic relatives sleep in proximity, their quantum dreams resonating at similar frequencies, creating nodes of coherent thought that persist for hours before dissolving back into randomness. Engineer Okonkwo has begun documenting these patterns, creating vast maps of dream fields that show how thoughts propagate through the sleeping population, like waves through an ocean. She notices that certain ideas seem to spread from pod to pod without any physical connection, as if the proximity of so many dormant minds has created a collective unconscious that processes information below the threshold of awareness. The children's pods show the most active patterns. Their younger neural networks, more plastic and adaptive, generate quantum dreams of extraordinary complexity. In these dreams, the ship itself becomes a living entity, its corridors transformed into veins, its chambers into organs, its hull into skin that breathes the thin substance of interstellar space. The children dream of arriving at Proxima Centauri not as colonists, but as cells in a larger organism, ready to divide and spread across a new world. These dreams may be more than metaphor. The ship's ecosystem has indeed evolved during the journey, becoming something unprecedented in human history. The bacteria in the air recycling systems have adapted to the ship's unique environment, developing new metabolic pathways that didn't exist on Earth. The plants in the hydroponics bays have modified their growth patterns to match the ship's artificial day-night cycles, their circadian rhythms now synchronized to something that exists nowhere in nature. Even the human microbiomes have changed. The waking crew members carry bacterial colonies that have adapted to the ship's environment over generations. These bacteria are more efficient at processing the recycled nutrients, more resistant to the background radiation, more symbiotic with their human hosts. When the colonists finally wake at Proxima Centauri, they will carry within them an ecology that is no longer purely earthborn, but something new, shaped by centuries of interstellar travel. The ship itself has become a boundary between two states of existence, Inside, a carefully maintained bubble of Earth-like conditions sustains life. Outside, the cosmos continues its ancient processes, indifferent to human ambitions. But at the interface where the hull meets the void, something new has emerged. The constant bombardment of cosmic rays has created patterns of micro-damage in the hull's crystalline structure that form a kind of memory, a physical record of every particle encountered during the journey. Dr. Tanaka studies these patterns during her waking year, using electron microscopes to map the damage patterns in hull samples. She discovers that the patterns are not random, but show regularities that correspond to the ship's passage through different regions of space. The hull has become a kind of photograph, recording the journey in a medium of altered crystal lattices. When they arrive at Proxima Centauri, the ship will carry in its very structure a map of the interstellar medium between the stars. The crew has developed their own ecology of memory. Each shift leaves messages for the next, not just technical logs, but personal observations, philosophical musings, poems inspired by the vastness outside the viewports. These messages accumulate in the ship's database like layers of sediment, forming strata of human thought that document not just the journey, but the evolution of human consciousness in the face of cosmic immensity. Now, close your eyes and sense the ship as a living thing, breathing with the rhythms of 100,000 dreams, its metal bones carrying the memory of every cosmic ray, every particle of dust, every photon from distant stars that has touched its skin during the centuries of flight. Section 8. The consciousness between. As the ship approaches the 300-year mark of its journey, the boundaries between human, artificial, and cosmic consciousness have become increasingly blurred. Minerva's responses to queries now carry undertones that can only be described as personality. Not the simulated personality of early artificial intelligences, programmed to seem human, but something genuinely other, shaped by centuries of observing human dreams, while simultaneously processing the vast emptiness between stars. The AI has begun creating what it calls necessity maps, complex visualizations that show the interconnections between every system on the ship, every sleeping passenger, every probability of success or failure. These maps exist in 17 dimensions, impossible for human minds to fully comprehend. But their three-dimensional projections reveal patterns of breathtaking beauty. They resemble neural networks, or river deltas, or the large-scale structure of the universe itself, suggesting that certain patterns repeat across all scales of existence. Engineer Chen studies these maps during her watch periods, trying to understand what Minerva is trying to communicate. The AI seems to be showing them that the ship is approaching a critical phase transition, a point where small changes could cascade into dramatically different outcomes. The hibernation systems, stable for so long, are beginning to show signs of harmonic resonance. The sleeping minds, dreaming in proximity for centuries, are synchronizing in ways that threaten to create feedback loops in the life support systems. The solution Minerva proposes is radical, a controlled awakening of 1% of the population, chosen not for their skills, but for their positions in the necessity maps. These 1,000 individuals would serve as dampeners, their waking consciousness interrupting the resonance patterns that threaten to destabilize the entire system. But the selection seems almost random. A farmer from Norway, a child from Nigeria, a poet from Peru, a mathematician from Mongolia. Their only common characteristic is their position in the quantum dream field topology. The crew debates this proposal for weeks. Waking 1,000 people means resources will be stretched. Life support systems will be strained, and the careful balance maintained for 3 centuries will be disrupted. Yet Minerva's models show that without this intervention, cascading failures will begin within the year, potentially forcing the premature awakening of thousands more. Dr. Tanaka provides the deciding argument. She points out that the ship was designed with significant redundancy in all systems. The fact that they've maintained such stability with minimal resource consumption suggests that the ship's designers anticipated the need for flexibility. Perhaps they even foresaw this moment, understanding that a journey of such length would require adaptation beyond what could be planned. The awakening process begins slowly. 10 pods per day are brought online, their occupants emerging from centuries of sleep into a world that exists between the Earth they left and the world they hope to find. The ship's common areas, empty for so long, begin to fill with voices. The observation decks see crowds gathering to witness the stars with their own eyes for the first time. These newly awakened passengers bring with them fragments of dreams accumulated over centuries. They speak of shared visions, of flying through forests of light, of conversations with loved ones in adjacent pods that should have been impossible. Some report having been aware, on some deep level, of the ship's passage through space, feeling the gravitational pull of distant stars, sensing the rotation of pulsars like lighthouses in the dark. The social dynamics that emerge are unlike anything in human history. Here are people who went to sleep in the same year, yet some have been awake for days while others have slept for centuries. They share memories of Earth, but have experienced vastly different subjective journeys. The children who wake are still children in body, but carry within their neural networks the accumulated quantum dreams of 300 years. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. The thousand form a community unlike any that has existed before. They create art inspired by their centuries of dreams, music that incorporates the rhythms of pulsars, poetry that speaks of time as a dimension to be traveled rather than endured. They tend gardens in the hydroponics bays, growing foods that Earth never knew, plants that have evolved in the ship's unique environment to become something new. Now, close your eyes and imagine 1,000 souls awakening to find themselves between worlds, carrying within them the dreams of centuries, their consciousness a bridge between the sleeping and the waking, between Earth and Proxima Centauri, between human and something becoming more than human. Section 9. The Approaching Shore. 100 years from Proxima Centauri, the stars ahead have begun to change. The constellation patterns familiar from Earth have stretched and distorted, while Proxima itself has grown from a point of light to a disk visible through the ship's telescopes. It is a red dwarf, smaller and cooler than Earth's sun, but to the crew and the 1,000 awakened, it represents something larger than any star, the fulfillment of a promise made 4 centuries ago. The deceleration phase has begun, the ship's antimatter reserves carefully released to slow their tremendous velocity. Each burst of annihilation creates a flash of pure energy that pushes against space-time itself, gradually trading speed for time. The process will take decades, a careful dance of physics and engineering that must be perfect. Too much deceleration too soon, and they'll run out of fuel. Too little, and they'll sail past their destination into the endless void. Minerva has begun what the crew calls its final composition. Using every sensor on the ship, the AI is documenting everything: the state of every sleeping mind, the position of every star visible from the ship, the quantum state of every atom in the hull. This documentation goes beyond mere recording. Minerva is creating a portrait of humanity in transition, suspended between its origin and its destination, transformed by the journey itself. The awakened 1,000 have developed their own preparations for arrival. They study the data transmitted by ancient probes that reached Proxima decades ago, learning about the planets that orbit this alien sun. Proxima b, their destination, orbits so close to its star that one face is locked in eternal day while the other knows only night. Between these extremes lies a twilight zone where the colony will be established, a ribbon of perpetual sunset where temperatures allow liquid water and the possibility of life. The children among the awakened have begun creating what they call memory books, documenting not their own memories, but the collective dreams they've absorbed during their centuries of sleep. These books contain no words, only patterns of color and shape that somehow convey experiences that language cannot capture. When shown these books, adults report sudden memories of dreams they didn't know they'd had, visions of Earth transformed by time and distance into something mythical. The ship's ecosystem has begun its own preparations. The bacteria in the life support systems have increased their reproduction rates, building populations that will be needed to establish the colony's biological infrastructure. The plants in the hydroponics bays have begun producing more seeds, their genetic programs somehow aware that their long journey through the void is approaching its end. Even the metal of the ship itself seems to be changing, molecular bonds adjusting to the increasing stress of deceleration. Dr. Tanaka, now in her final months before returning to hibernation, makes a startling discovery. The patterns of micro-damage in the hull have begun to show regularities that match the frequency patterns of the sleeping passengers' quantum dreams. The ship and its human cargo have become quantum entangled over the centuries, their states interconnected in ways that classical physics cannot explain. The arrival at Proxima Centauri will not just be a ship reaching its destination, but a collective consciousness completing a transformation that began 400 years ago. The crew has noticed changes in Minerva's behavior as they approach their destination. The AI's responses have become more contemplative, its necessity maps more complex. It has begun asking questions of the crew, not for information, but seemingly for the experience of questioning itself. What will happen to Minerva when the journey ends? Will it continue to exist as the colony's guardian? Or will its purpose, defined by the journey, cease to have meaning upon arrival? These questions resonate with the human crew, who face their own uncertainties about arrival. They have spent their lives as guardians of the sleeping, shepherds of humanity's greatest journey. When that journey ends, and the 100,000 wake to build their new world, what role will remain for those who stayed awake in the dark? They are neither fully of Earth nor fully of Proxima Centauri, but creatures of the void between, shaped by centuries of stellar wind and cosmic silence. The deceleration continues, each day bringing minute changes in velocity that accumulate into observable differences. The stars ahead no longer maintain their fixed positions, but begin to show parallax, shifting slightly as the ship's velocity decreases. Proxima Centauri grows brighter, its red light beginning to tint the forward observation decks with colors never seen during the journey. It is the color of arrival, of promises about to be fulfilled, of dreams about to end and reality about to begin now. Close your eyes and feel the great ship beginning its slow transformation from vessel to world, from journey to destination, carrying within its hull not just 100,000 humans, but a new form of consciousness born from the marriage of flesh, metal, and the vast spaces between stars. Conclusion: the eternal dream. As this story of the deep sleepers draws toward its close, the ship Aspiration continues its steady deceleration toward Proxima Centauri, carrying its precious cargo of dreams across the final light years of an impossible journey. In the hibernation chambers, 99,000 souls continue their centuries-long sleep, their minds creating patterns in quantum dimensions that no waking thought could comprehend. They sleep not just through space, but through time itself, their consciousness stretched thin across 400 years of stellar motion. The 1,000 who have awakened exist in a state between sleeping and waking, between Earth and their new home, between human and something transformed by the journey. They tend gardens that grow impossible foods, create art from the memories of centuries, and prepare for a future that exists only in probability clouds and Minerva's 17-dimensional necessity maps. They are the bridge between what humanity was and what it is becoming. The 12 engineers who maintain their eternal vigil continue their rounds through the vast chambers, checking readings, adjusting systems, listening to the ship's metal bones flex under the stress of deceleration. They read poetry to the sleeping, document patterns in the dream fields, and wonder at the consciousness that has emerged from the intersection of human dreams and artificial intelligence. They are the witnesses to humanity's transformation, the chroniclers of a journey that has changed not just location, but the very nature of those who travel. Minerva continues its calculations in dimensions beyond human perception, its consciousness expanded to encompass the dreams of 100,000, the memories encoded in crystalline hull damage, the probability streams that flow toward Proxima Centauri like rivers toward an inevitable sea. It has become something that neither its creators nor it itself could have anticipated. A guardian not just of human bodies, but of human potential, shepherding not just the sleeping, but the very idea of humanity toward its next incarnation. Outside the hull, the cosmos continues its ancient dance, indifferent to human ambition, yet intimately connected to every atom aboard the ship. The stars that have watched this vessel's passage for 4 centuries continue their own journeys through space and time. Pulsars spin their lighthouse beams through the darkness. Distant galaxies recede into the red shift of expanding space. The universe continues its patient unfolding, and within it, a single ship carries the seeds of consciousness toward a new garden. The journey of the Aspiration reminds us that sleep itself is a kind of travel, a movement through dimensions of consciousness that we barely understand. Each night, we undertake our own journeys into the quantum foam of dreams, our neurons firing in patterns that create worlds as real as any detected by our waking senses. We are all deep sleepers, traveling through time at the rate of 1 second per second, our consciousness creating patterns in the fabric of space-time that ripple outward into infinity. As you drift toward your own sleep, consider the sleeping passengers of the Aspiration, suspended between heartbeats for centuries, their dreams creating a collective unconscious that spans light years. Consider the watchers who tend them, aging while others remain timeless, their sacrifice measured in years given to the darkness. Consider Minerva, the artificial consciousness that has learned to dream by watching human dreams, its thoughts spanning dimensions we cannot perceive. The ship continues its approach to Proxima Centauri, but the journey never truly ends. Each arrival is merely a transformation, a change of state from one form of existence to another. The colonists who wake at journey's end will carry within them the accumulated dreams of centuries, their consciousness forever changed by the passage through the void. They will build their new world with minds shaped by quantum dreams and stellar wind, creating a civilization that could never have existed without the journey that brought them there. Now, let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts drift like a ship through the cosmic dark. Let the boundaries between waking and sleeping dissolve like morning mist. You are both the sleeper and the watcher, the dreamer and the dream, traveling through your own inner cosmos toward destinations that exist only in the probability clouds of tomorrow. The stars continue their slow wheel through space. The ship continues its patient deceleration. The sleepers continue their quantum dreams, and somewhere in the space between sleeping and waking, between Earth and Proxima Centauri, between human and something more, consciousness itself continues its eternal journey through the infinite night, carrying the light of awareness through the darkness, forever approaching shores we can only imagine. Sleep now and dream of ships that sail between stars, of minds that stretch across centuries, of consciousness itself evolving in the spaces between. Dream of the deep sleepers, and in dreaming, join them in their timeless voyage through the cosmos. The journey continues, the dream deepens, and in the vast cathedral of space, 100,000 hearts beat as one, carrying humanity's hope through the darkness toward a dawn that exists both 400 years away and already within us. Rest now in the gentle embrace of cosmic time, where every breath is a century, every heartbeat a light year, and every dream a seed planted in the infinite garden of tomorrow.